Recording got serving fire some style. 1, 2, 3. This shit here for my niggas up east, ghosting police in the red corniche. This right here for my vets out west, rockin' Rolex, live life no stress. This for my niggas with clout down south, cats that peel out and shorties that drill out. This right here for the courts up north, keeping the black brown handcuffed up course. Fireproof is the name-o, dishing out ammo, cannibal in the bando, gripping the pearl handle. My shit go pop like fresh shrimp and Crisco. Broke my wrist scraping the pennies to make nickels. Damn quarter, Chicago's the crab quarter for evil. Still, I got the wheel on my vision like Ezekiel. I'm a skeet, barbecue garbage crews. My melon is shad, I ram tight as the pussy in the mosquito. I play too much, I say shit you don't say too much. Nigga, pants below the waist too much. Land on they dick like they chicks 8 and plus, but hoes looking like apes in the face too much. I'm lyrically set apart, hip hop pedagogue. Wet a hog, got a spite and recite the Jewish decalogue. Political demagogue with true political views. Like Republican and Democrats, similar dudes, they fight and cite similar rules. Trayvon got shot by a similar brute to me and you. Don't forget about the niggas you shoot or what you bastard, and guess that make you innocent too. My link card don't start till after. On the 3rd, till then I eat animal crackers. On the curb, I got more raps than Jesse Jackson. This shit is fly like Bessie Coleman. You better leave me Macaulay Culkin before I Hulk Hogan. Your V-neck, I murder a T-Rex. The study is reflexes, type on the V-tech. Cause the Dale went out. It's going down like a ship when the sail went out. I think I ran dope, now I'ma have to sling this shit. You niggas never fly, see you on your penguin shit. Who the flame retarded MC be? Me, John Avarice, the lyricist, doused in kerosene. This shit here for my niggas up east, ghosting police in the red corniche. This right here for my vets out west, rockin' Rolex, live life no stress. This for my niggas with clout down south, cats that peel out and shorties that drill out. This right here for the courts up north, keeping the black brown handcuffed up course. I wallow in witch hazel, handle a switchblade and spin you a sick fable. Hand you some lemonade, then render you disabled. Apply for public aid, I spent it all on cable. Tell you hostile away go, nigga. I can rip a rapper, I mean for real, like a snicker rapper. Spread his limbs round like chitter chatter. On the mic, I'm the fickle matter. Hell, I even hyped the mountain with a ladder. It's the broke nigga rapper. Hey, where my bros at? Yo, where them independent women with class, but really project hoes at? With the nerve to ask Gotti, yeah, bro, who that? Same type of nigga you would treat like doormats. It's Malcolm X with braids. Break your jaw with the mic, then force you to play charades. Masquerade on the couch, recite the alphabet with a razor blade in your mouth. Cut off one of your ears and ask you to hear me out, nigga. All my bitches cheated on me, so why should I be monogamous when I can just put hollow tips and parts that make them erogenous? The 4th, 5th, and porn flicks got me convinced that it's more fish. Me forfeit, I'd rather gorge on horse dick with a whole board to my torso from face fucking a swordfish. Gorgeous with a mic, I'm Jordan. When I write, I'm Lord and all hail. I lift barbells, 2 reps till my arms fail. Fireproof, nigga. No wonder why my songs fail. I'm too cool for school. I got kicked out of Half Park, trading textbooks for food. It's the A to the VA, R to the ICE. I love listening to LEP. I love Chinese water torture in the tub with ICE. It's middle finger to the CPD. This shit here for my niggas up east, ghosting police in the red corniche. This right here for my vets out west, rockin' Rolex, live life no stress. This for my niggas with clout down south, cats that peel out and shorties that drill out. This right here for the courts up north, keep the black brown handcuffed of course. 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 Y'all niggas know what it is. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah. All right. Peace and Black African Power. Welcome back to Kofi Piesie Research Team with Kofi Piesie. We have a special guest today. And this is going to be, but first, the song that I just played for people that may not know who the song is, that is our brother Fortune Believe. He is a member of the Mossi Warrior Clan, and that song is off of his Fireproof EP. You can go cop it. I think it's streamed on all musical platforms. So go check out our brother Fortune Believe's EP, Fireproof. But yeah, welcome back to Warrior Scholar Show. This is a special edition. I'm actually gonna do some mixing and matching. I'm gonna incorporate some stuff from my author's perspective show into the Warrior Scholar Show. I interviewed him on Arthur's Perspective, so this time I wanted to interview him on Warrior Scholar Show, but I'm going to incorporate some of the things that I do with Arthur Perspective into the Warrior Scholar Show today. So first, I want to say ETM Hotep, Dua Aku, Dua Netcher, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Riri, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Lakba, Majuba Iba E Lakba. I always want to give honor and praises to the ancestors, because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I also want to stand honor and praises to the true and living elders, according to an African perspective and from an African worldview. Like I said over here, just because you older than me does not make you an elder if you doesn't meet those criteria from an African worldview and from an African perspective. All right, before we get into the interview, I had to go through the things. I didn't do it yesterday when I went live yesterday, but I want to make sure that I'm able to do this today. Hold on, let me go to here. Let me go here. Pull up. All right, now welcome back. You know, we started the new Independent African Academy, and um, so over here we have goals, we have codes of conducts, we have mandates, we yes, and goals that we're definitely trying to achieve for everyone. So I'm going to read these codes of conducts and these mandates. Hold on, let me move this around. I have to stretch this out so I can see. Give me 1 second so I can see it and blow it up on this other laptop. All right, so the new Independent African Academy. I'm already on the. Okay. All right, these are some of the mandates and codes of conducts. This is never talk down on another NIA member in public, no pseudoisms, research method or methodology must be followed. Um, Teach those who are willing to learn, support other members, disagreements handled in private. No one is above critique a correction. We must stand. We must stand for Black Africa, the descendants and diaspora. Zero tolerance for dishonesty. No selfless acts. No scamming, no pedophilia, no disrespecting Black women, race first, supporting Black businesses, integrity, man must possess the will to learn. Each one, teach one, are the phrase that we use over here. As I learn, we all learn. These are some of the goals that we're trying to achieve in real time, and that is produce more authors, producing exceptional men and women, institutions for learning, entrepreneurship, scientific literacy, scholarships for the youth, young, what is that? I'm trying to see. Oh, long-lasting marriages, creating rites of passage, unifications, and multiple support systems. So we're already achieving some of those things. We need to take it to greater lengths, but some of those things we hadn't achieved that we're trying to achieve, but definitely institutions for learning. We definitely trying to at least do that thing online. We already doing that online, but actually creating other different products outside of that. But these are the goals, the mandates and conducts that we're trying to get out. All right, so if you're down with the new Independent African Academy, you can go to our store in Boca, Family Connect Apparel, and get your new Independent African Academy t-shirts. They are available on our apparel company as well. It's cold outside now, so if you want your sweatsuits, we got sweatsuits. I've been putting up sweatsuits all week. I'll be putting up some more sweatsuits, more designs. But if you rocking with New Independent African Academy and you like what we stand for, you like the direction that we're trying to go in, and you're trying to be a part of this safe community over here, then go get your new Independent African Academy sweatsuits, man. I'm actually gonna order me one tonight. Um, Also, please go get, if you don't have my publication, Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo, if you're trying to understand the different elements that make up what y'all are calling African spirituality or African traditional religion. this text is definitely for you. Again, I appreciate those people who will purchase and actually done dug in the book. So again, I've been getting great reviews from the book. So appreciate the support. Appreciate the people feedback. I'm looking forward for other feedback from individuals in the future. Also, if you hadn't had Spearmasters, please go get our Spearmasters, our historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars. African Warrior Scholars, Volume 4. This is our fourth text. This name of the text was inspired by the Dinka people in the South Sudan. So if you want to learn about the Dinka people, the Sudan, the various warriors, or even learn about who is the Spirit Masters, this text is definitely for you as well. Also, if you don't have Sean's publication, What SARS-CoV Taught Me, please go cop this text as well. If you are uninformed, if you don't understand what a virus is, he has a great chapter in this book, understanding what the immune system is and why it's dangerous to boost the system and why we should use the term strengthening. This is definitely a book for you. All those publications are available on our publishing company, that is Same Tree Different Branch Publishing. Again, that is Same Tree Different Branch. Dude, hurry up, Tude. This stuff is feeding through the my microphone. Same Tree Different Branch Publishing. All right, now that I got that out of the way, so first I would like to say, brother Asar, I appreciate you, man, for allowing me to interview you again, man. I appreciate you, man, for coming back on the platform. This definitely means a lot for me. Um, Also, man, but if could you briefly introduce yourself for people that might not know who brother Asar Imhotep is?
Well, first and foremost, peace and blessings, and to the whole entire Kofi Piesie TV and research team, massive, and the whole Mossi warrior clan, massive, and the whole Magi archers, massive, even the what's our boy Dagger Squad, massive, of course the Amara Squad, massive, and everyone who is listening live, and then of course those of you who are listening to the archives. I'd like to thank you all for coming and listening to our conversation, and I hope that you gain something from our discourse. And as far as an introduction, I simply say that I am an ancestral memory recovery specialist. And some of the tools that I use, of course, is history, anthropology, historical comparative linguistics. And I am an Africologist, and an Africologist is a scholar within the field of Africology, which is the African-centered study of African history, phenomena, etc. And the creator of the Madu Ndela Institute, as well as the Madu Ndela Press, which I guess we'll be talking about in part today, and a host of other things, a student, a teacher, a father, an artist, you name it, I do it. It's part of the Leo in me. So that's my intro in a nutshell.
Okay. I forgot, man, you was a Leo. I'm a Leo. I sure forgot.
Indeed.
Okay. Yeah, peace to everybody in the chat, y'all. Please share the show. But these first couple of questions are normally the questions that I bring on the guest that comes on to the platform, or some of the same questions. So first, and like I said, I'm gonna be incorporating too also some of the stuff that I normally do with Optic Perspective into the Warrior Scholars, because we definitely gonna be talking about publications and publishing and writing and so forth. So, name some of what is some of Asar Imhotep favorite warrior scholars?
Um, that's, of course, that's an endless list. Even though it's finite, it's still an endless list. But so of course we're just gonna assume automatically Shekinah Diop, Teofilo Benga. That's just automatic. But there are authors such as Muba Binge Bilolo. There are authors such as Abubakar Musalam. One of my most favorite authors, of course, is the late and great Dr. Kimbwadinde Kiabonseki Fukiao. There's also a South African author by the name of Jordan Gabani, who published a text in 1979 called Conflict of Minds. That is, my two favorite authors is Jordan Gabani and Dr. Fukiao. And there's, of course, Dr. Asa Hilliard. There is Jacob Carruthers. There is Sabonfu Some, and Malidoma Some. And, again, I can go on, it just really, and of course, Dr. Amos Wilson. So, the trilogy is going to be, for me, okay, Shekinah Diop, Dr. Amos Wilson, and Dr. Fukiao. But my Mount Rushmore is going to include Jordan and Gabani in terms of, and this covers a wide range, of topics and subject matters. But, those are just a few in a nutshell.
Okay, man, ain't nothing, man. That's a heavy list, man. Right there, man. I'm familiar with a lot of them, and a lot of them, you kind of introduce, to the community. You and Ben, for me, Malidoma Some, was one, and Dr. Fukiao was recent, which I sourced and used some of his dissertation, and I can't think of the name of the yellow book that he had.
Self-Healing Power and Therapy.
Yes, that one as well. I sourced some information out of that in my text, Beautiful Lessons about Kimoyo. It was another person you introduced me to. I like your books when you read your book, because I like to go, before I even touch your books, I always go to the back of the books and look at your sources on there. And a lot of times it be African scholars that I have never heard of before, and I take them and jot them down and then go back, and purchase some of these books, man, and try to get into some of these African scholars that I had never heard of before, man. But name the last book you read, Brother Asar, or the book that you are currently reading.
Well, let me see. I don't know why my screen just went out. Well, I guess I can't count my school textbooks. That's all it has to deal with, computer science stuff.
Yeah.
So, the last complete book that I read, I don't know, because I've been researching and writing my own books, so I'm reading, a lot of them at the same time, going through, different things. But I can say, in terms of my most.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complete, just something that you the last thing that you read or something that you currently reading, whether you just started reading the book or whether you completed the book.
Well, here's one. I don't know if it shows up.
Yeah, they said Mathematic Methods of Linguistics. Barbara H. Perel, Alice T. I ain't finna try to pronounce her last name, and Robert E. Walls. Correct first edition. We see it. Okay.
Right. So, big things are going because of that. And then this text here.
Okay, burial migrations and identifying in the ancient Sahara and beyond. Oh, I might have to check that one out there. Okay.
So, this is basically an anthropological work.
Mm-hmm.
And, some books I had to rebuy because I don't have my books here in Texas. Like all my books are in Philly. So, but some things I just needed, like this African, because I'm be teaching a linguistics class from this book. So I rebought this book. And of course, we always got on deck.
No doubt.
And the others. But, Abu Bakr Salam, The Paths of the Nile is in French.
Okay.
This is the relations between ancient Egypt and Black Africa. That's the subtitle.
All right.
And, like these are, but again, for class, computer organization and fundamental design, and so dealing with all this electronic stuff and making motors and, learning how to program keys and, doing LEDs and making fans, you have your basic puts like, sensors, so, all this stuff, of course, you got to have a breadboard. The whole nine. I'm just
getting your science on. Ain't not getting your science on.
I got to get the science on,
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with that. What what was the book? The African Voices, that's the name of the book? Because I think I got that on PDF. What now? You say you was gonna use it for your linguistic class? Yeah, African Voices. Yeah, I got it on PDF. When are those classes going to be available? With the linguistic class that you're going to be teaching? Because I'm asking because I definitely want to dig into it. I'm not trying to be a master linguistic, but I'm trying to understand the the comparative analysis of different language phylums. So I'm definitely trying to get me a better understanding because I'm lost.
Yeah, I'm redesigning my course because I have one up already. It's an introduction to linguistics, but I'm specially tailoring it. And so now it's going to be called an introduction to linguistics for Africology. Okay. And so it is specifically designed for those who study African history and want to know how to use linguistics as a tool in their, socio-political analysis, their historical cultural analysis, and things of that nature. So we'll be linking a lot. And there's very few textbooks that deal with African languages as an introduction to linguistics. And so that's why this text is chosen. So it's introduction to languages and linguistics of Africa, and it has a heavy Bantu lean to it because I guess that's a lot of the authors are from those tongues. But so this will be the primary, and it will probably be two other books. So this be required for the class, and then I may supply the other 2 books that I may reference, because they'll be ebooks. But it's going to be designed so you'll get an introduction, into Africology, as a discipline. The next week will probably deal with, what is needed in the field of Africology, and how, in terms of research methods. And then we get into the linguistics, because I want to let you know what you'll be using linguistics for, and depending on so it doesn't have to always be a historical comparative analysis. It could just be part of the process, for example, that you want to do, let's say, etymology, and you're trying to get an understanding of, a certain word and how it's used, socially within a particular ethnic group. And you want to see how, how it's used in society or whatnot. So it ultimately, linguistics is a tool for, cultural anthropology and sociology, of course, and psychology, because ultimately we're getting into the psychology of African people. And so, the transmitter of thought, of course, is language. And so if you can understand language and how these certain ideas are broken down, then you can understand why certain African groups have chosen or put together certain words to convey certain concepts, and so that you get a better overall understanding, of the people themselves, and even how to move forward. So like for individuals like me who are into software development and programming and computer science, when it comes to developing software in these African languages, how are you going to do that? How are we going to design keys, like keyboards, for African languages that don't have our phonemes in terms of English using the Latin letters? How will you naturally do diacritic marks, or other sounds that don't exist, in the particular in English, for example. And so, these are some of the ideas and things in which language is going to be important. And then, of course, translating certain concepts into English or even into other African languages. That's all part of the process and the goal. And I do apologize if you hear like music, because I live basically on an Air Force base. And so, every day, early in the morning, and then around this time in the evening or afternoon, they're playing some patriotic music and getting the troops up, and then you'll hear them training and stuff in the background. So if you hear it, that's what that is.
Nah, I don't hear it. Before I go into my next question, okay, is it you and a collective of individuals that is trying to do this, or is just you trying to do this on its own, far as you creating these keys on the keyboard, you know what I'm saying, into with the diacritic marks and the different letters or phylums that the Africans use, or is it a collective thing that, or is just you trying to do this?
Oh, no. This is I was just using that as an example of why linguistics would be important for those of us in Africology. And there are others who are already doing this work. Like I had a guest on, Dr. Tunde, who is a language and technology specialist, and this is what he focuses on. So he already has a team, and for stuff like this, you would need you would need a team. I mean, the days of the lone genius, are gone. The kinds of projects, is going to demand teamwork. And so for something like that, you would have to put together a team.
Right. Man, that'd be dope. So,
because it's going to be rare that you have someone who has, straight linguistic competence and software development competence, as well as mechanical and electrical engineering competence, all in one person. Like you would need a team. So that's why usually a lot of this stuff is developed on university campuses. They take advantage of the resources there, and a researcher can have some understudies, with them, and it's just a team. Unless you're like in the private sector, then of course that's a different story altogether. But it's always teamwork, involved in such projects like that. But you got to start somewhere. So and so I'm gearing up, and I'll be teaching as well, some basic introduction to coding courses, and there's plenty of them, but done in a way that they see someone Black doing it, and probably do some basic stuff in robotics if we can, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's dope, man. What does like, I know like a lot of people that I bring on, they have these names, and I always, try to tell people that, when you in African culture and African customs, names are very important, and a lot of people, and different, depending on what ethnic group that you belong to, a lot of these different African ethnic groups, you may have several names, but all these names it has a significance to the name, as far as like some of them is tied to your destiny, far as what they see you doing, and etc. So your name, can you explain for those that may not know what Asar Imhotep means?
All righty. Well, I guess let me first say that the name, and for those who don't know, my government name is Harold Johnson. And but in college and undergrad, I pledged a fraternity called Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I was the number 4 on my line. And I was given the name Imhotep. So Imhotep, comes from that's my line name as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And it's just, the one who comes in peace, essentially, in terms of that name. And I was named that because of the various different activities in which I was involved in. And if you know about Imhotep in ancient Nile Valley civilization, ancient Egyptian civilization, he is considered by many the first recorded multi-genius. And, he was an architect, a medical doctor. He was also a poet and astronomer. And so for those who don't know me in my other capacity, I used to tour around the United States doing spoken word and slams and things of this nature, and been doing that for a while. I was also a producer, so I was in the arts in terms of music production. I did the graphics. I've been always into computer science and software development, and of course into history and things of that nature. So they're seeing that I was into all of this things, that's what they name me. So you're given a name when you pledge an organization. And so, as a matter of fact, my whole line was called the 6 Pharaohs of Triumph. So, because there was 6 of us on the line. And so that's that part. And so later on, when I started getting serious and deeper into the study of ancient Kemet, I tacked on the name Asar. And this was in part due to I was reading a lot of Dr. Muata Ashby books at the time. And huh?
I said I've been there. I've been there. They Sean have been trying to get me to throw away. I got a whole shelf with Muad Ashby books on there. But go ahead.
Yeah, man. It's so was reading the books of the dead, and then of course when the deceased or whatnot was named, they would always put a star in front of the name. And so whatever, if it was Pepe, it was Asar Pepe, and da 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 da. So that I was like, this is a dope concept. So, back then I started an entity called Mocha Urban Hang Suite. And I created a website to go along with it. And the website itself was kind of like, it was, an urban internet magazine. And it would feature content, related to arts, fashion, but of course, I always got to include history, African history, philosophy, and religion on the website as well. So, when I started writing and posting stuff on the website, so this is the early 2000s, of course, I went by the name Asar Imhotep, and that was my writing name. So it's just been that way ever since. So Imhotep was the line name for when I pledged Alpha, and then I added Asar. And Asar, in terms of the meaning, it wasn't the meaning at first that we understood, because nobody really understood the meaning. It was still debatable in terms of what Asar meant. And of course, I didn't have the linguistic competence that I do now to try and investigate, back then. So even the pronunciation, Asar, is not, the proper pronunciation. But I keep it because I've been writing since the early 2000s under that moniker. So it just stays. I have, many other names, initiation names, and all this other kind of stuff, but I just go by Asar Imhotep. And so, but only recently, dealing with the publication of 2016 publication, Nesubiti, King in Ancient Egyptian, did I tackle the meaning of Asar. And I come to the conclusion that it is a name that essentially refers to someone or a characteristic that we would, in today's language, we would call a solid individual. Somebody that is of high, of great integrity, who is reliable, and who is, true in their actions and things, which perfectly explains why the deceased, they were given the name Asar, because of course they were, to be found Ma'at Keru, true of voice in the ancient Egyptian language. And so this name still survives among the Luo people as Osir. And it's just a common name in Luo, in Kenya and in parts of Sudan, Osir, and it has to deal with someone that it's a word for like pillar. It's a word for support. It's a word for strong, somebody that holds up something. Is ultimately a word dealing with integrity. and holding up, maintaining, preserving things. So, but that understanding came years later, as a result of further studies using linguistics as a tool.
Man, that name, the way that you just broke down both, it is befitting to you, man. It is, you definitely possess the characteristics of both of those names. I don't think nobody would disagree with me by me saying that, man. But appreciate, man, you breaking down the name, because I definitely want people to break their names down so people can have an understanding of what those names mean. Now you have a publishing company, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to pronounce it right. It's Madu Ndela, right?
Yeah, you could just say Madu Ndela.
Okay, so can you break that name down? And this name is your publishing company. Can you break that name down for us?
Yes. So Madu is the whole phrase comes from the Chiluba Bantu languages out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it is the language of the Baluba people, or we could just say the Luba people. And it is essentially a word that would translate, and is a logical equivalence to the word Madu Ndela in the ancient Egyptian. And so the word Madu can deal with speech, but it has to deal with and let me back up, because Madu Ndela is the divine speech, God's speech, right? But Madu, and there's various different words and variations of Medu in ancient Egyptian. So Medu, Medet, Medet-tet, just Med in one variation. And so it all has to deal with command, speech, in one variance, kind of like the oracle, and even dealing with method in science and stuff like that. So, we use it in a sense of, because there's a variation in Chiluba called Malu. And all this has to deal with business, science. And so we use it as the words or the science of, right? You could say Madu, it's kind of like a connective, Madu Ndela, or Madu Ndela. And kind of like when you see like Muntu and Zombie, as far as this text. So we'll get to this later, but that Y is a connective. So it's the same thing. So so that's that with Madu. And then Ndela is the root that in another form means God, but it's the root which means to give birth to be prolific, one who is prolific in terms of producing. And so it comes from a root Ela, which means to exit from the self. And so it can be anything that exits from, ultimately it means to propagate from a center, but from the self. So anytime you give, it's Ela. Anytime you speak, it's Ela. Anytime you think of something, any kind of thought, idea, object, any kind of artistic expression is Ela. So that Ndela has to deal with, the expression laws and things. So when we're talking about Madu Ndela, we're talking about the laws, the science of being prolific, being able to produce. And so when you're dealing with words for God in African languages, you're just talking about an agent that generates change. That's all a God is an agent that generates change, that generates movement, that produces something, that creates something. So ultimately, spirituality is a process of self-development that helps you to be more productive in your life. It is the science and art of bringing prosperity to all aspects of your life. And so that's what Madu Ndela represents as a concept. And then it applies to a way of looking at nature as a mentor, to be able to study nature and its problem solving techniques, so that we can emulate them in synthetic processes, to build more sustainable societies. So in many respects, it's called biomimicry now in terms of biology, or biomimetics or mimetics or something like that, as far as an alternative name. But for us, it's Madu Ndela. It's this art of being, in terms of the art, in terms of the laws of being producers of studying nature and how it expresses itself, and finding those, understanding the underlying laws so that you can replicate these in all areas of life. So that's what the entity and the concept is. And then of course I named the publishing company after that. So
man, that's a dope concept. I'm gonna have to go back after the show and rewind how you broke that down. I like how you broke that down and the concept behind it. I mean, golly, that's dope. That's dope. Now, what inspired you, man, to create your own publishing company? And are you looking for this? Two questions. What inspired you to create your own publishing company? And are you looking for certain books to publish, or you will publish whomever patronize your company? Because because I think a lot of people don't know that you have your own publishing company, and you publish your publications through your own publishing company. And we want to talk about even outside of yourself. I want to get into the text that you threw up earlier, man. I hadn't read it, but I'm definitely going to get into it. But yeah, what inspired you, man, to create your own publishing company? And is your publishing company only looking for a certain particular books to publish, or you publish anybody book that patronize your company?
yes, the inspiration came partly as, just, how should I say, necessity, and then part kujichagulia, for a lack of a better term, and self-determination in terms of the publication. So, I'm in a unique place where the kind of research that I do is a young field. And so when you have an emerging field of study, there's a lot of hurdles that you have to jump through to get your thoughts and words and stuff out there. And I said in part necessity because and I didn't even have a name for what I was doing I don't think I did. I need to double check and see if I actually put it under a particular name. But I, way back in like 2009 and maybe 2010, I translated, no, it had to be 2000, it had to be either 2010, 2011. I translated a book from French to English. It's a small book by Dr. Kalaw and Sapo. And he is a Luba out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he wrote a text translated into English called Prayer in Africa. And so he's dealing with, in the text, you know, the way that African people via the Baluba people in Central Africa, what they mean by the concept of prayer. And so he gives some indigenous concepts. He also compares it with ancient Egyptian. And so for those who don't know, Dr. Nsapo, you know, he is a longtime friend and co-publisher with Dr. Mubabingi Bilolo. And so if you know about Mubabingi Bilolo, he is one who publishes a lot, doing comparisons between ancient Egyptian and Chiluba and just Central African Bantu. And so he's the one who actually inspired me to start looking into Chiluba. And so once I started getting an understanding of the language, and I got a lot of resources regarding the vocabulary, of course, Dr. Mubabingi Bilolo and Dr. Nsapo have an advantage that they're born and raised and speak the language natively. But I got a better understanding. I started using Chiluba as one of my, you know, major languages that I use to compare with ancient Egyptian. But so that's really kind of what kicked it off. But, you know, when over the years, when I was dealing with showing the relationship between Central African ideas, languages, and concepts and philosophy with ancient Egyptian, of course, you have a lot of backlash coming from academia in general. And this isn't just for me. This is coming from, you know, African scholars who have PhDs from the best, you know, universities, you know, in the world. And so, you know, part of the issue in getting this out is finding people to publish these works. And so, and then 9 times out of 10, anyone who's interested in that work is a native African who mainly writes in French. So that leaves all the English speakers. If you don't know nothing about that, if you don't read French, there's a whole body of knowledge that you're unaware of. So, you know, when I was looking at this, I'm like, I need to create something that allows for me to bring to light these authors and this type of research, and essentially that to make these arguments and put them out there, you know, for the public. And so another part of the inspiration is that it's a doctor, she has since passed, but a European woman by the name of Alexandra Nibi, who's an Egyptologist. And she had, you know, differing views than what was mainstream in Egyptology. And she, you know, they were refusing to publish a lot of her work. And it was solid work. It's just that it went against certain conventions. So she started her own journal, and other Egyptologists came to publish through her journal. And I'm like, this is when I started realizing that there's how should I say, it's just different schools of thought, and you have these barriers. And if you don't agree with what goes on with this school, they'll reject your publications. And so once I got, hip to the game, I was like, something has to change. And then, of course, there was a need for, we just need our own kind of Afro-American, African-centered Egyptology, which was the inspiration behind the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. Well, hold on. And I'm hearing my doorbell. I'm sorry. Let me go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Answer that real quick, and I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
All right, hold on.
Peace to everybody else in the chat, man. Hope y'all enjoying the interview with brother Asar Imhotep. He be right back, man. I definitely want to dig into more about its inspiration about the publishing company. I think that's important. That he has his own publishing company, and we all are trying to develop more Black publishing companies, because as he was stating earlier about the need or the rejection of going through other publishing companies to publish these types of works and type of research that we do, man, it's very hard it's very hard for us to get these publishing companies to actually publish our works. Again, the publishing company is about money, but we talked about that a lot on Arthur's perspective, the different criteria that these different publications have, and certain things that you have to meet. So if it ain't about money, like we writing something about something dealing with Africa, African culture, or customs, or something dealing with history, or something, those things to the publishing company, those are things it's not going to actually sell money. And a lot of times they will want you to do something different. I interviewed a brother, which I got to bring the brother back onto the show. Dang, I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name right now. Let me see if I got the book still up here. Hold on. Yeah, the book I Only Have an Hour by Samuel Polk. I interviewed this brother, but his feed wasn't right. So we ended up having to do it over again. And he ended up self-publishing the book because he went through this same thing where he's talking about football, but he's also talking about racism. He's talking about African culture and customs. He's talking about the revolution, different revolutionaries that inspired him, how he got in the train of thought that he was in. But those people in the publishing company that he sought after, they refused to actually publish his book. Let me change my camera. I want y'all to actually see this brother work. And if you're interested in copying the brother's book, give me 1 second. Let me change so y'all can actually see. So this is the book here. I Only Have an Hour, and this is the book that was rejected by one of the publishing companies. Again, it has a lot of stuff that's dealing with racism. It's dealing with African culture. It's dealing with African American culture. It's dealing with a lot of our revolutionaries, some of our highly intellectual individuals like W.E. Du Bois, Carter G. Wilson, Amos Wilson, and so forth, John Henry Clark, and etc. So this book here was actually rejected by one of the publishing company when he submitted his manuscript. So hold on. Change position of my camera. All right, so it's very important that we have these Black publishing companies. So now when we want to write about our own history or correct our own history or write about our lineage or our ancestors' contributions that they left out, we able to go to these different publishing companies, and get our works published. So it's very important. So I'm just definitely trying to dig in and just waiting on Brother Asar to get back so we could continue the conversation about his publishing company, man.
I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I'm back. I was just saying I'm back.
Okay. Well, you could continue. It was you left off what actually interested you to create your publishing company. You was talking about the lack of space and just creating our own and being rejected by certain research and manuscripts that that it's hard to get into some of these publishing companies. So I was just trying to explain some of that to the people while you was off.
Yeah, so that's a large part of it, and I didn't want to necessarily go through all those battles that the elders were going through. For example, remember that Sheikh Anta Diop, his PhD dissertations were rejected twice for no other reason that they just couldn't agree with the conclusion. And so on the third try, they just had to give it to him because it's like, it's just no denying what it is. But, it came out to be, like the African Origins of Civilization, book, that was his PhD dissertation, and like I recall Dr. Muba Bingi Bilolo, who, is an individual who speaks several African languages. He is conversant in, of course, French, in German, of course, the Madu Ndela. I believe Hebrew as well, and and mainly a number of the surrounding Bantu languages in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he through a 12-year period, of course, after high school, he's got his degrees, and he's studied politics, religion, philosophy, Egyptology, language and linguistics, the whole nine. He's a very accomplished individual. And he went to submit an abstract for this international Egyptology conference, right? It's supposed to be an international Egyptological conference. And so the title of his text was something like, is him asking the question, is ancient Egyptian a Bantu language? And he submitted his abstract. So if for those not familiar, when you have these major conferences, unless you're an invited speaker, you submit an abstract, which is just basically a summary of the research that you want to present at the conference. A panel of judges reads the abstracts, and they decide whether your abstract is accepted or not. And so, they rejected his abstract. And when it came time to announce the people who were accepted, he noticed that for this international Egyptology conference, it was mainly all white males from France, Germany, Britain, and I think one from the United States, one or two from the United States. It was one Egyptian man from Egypt, but that was the only quote unquote African. But they don't consider Egypt Africa. That's the Middle East. So for them, basically no African people. I think it was like maybe one woman on the entire, bill or whatnot. And he wrote a letter to an open letter, to the committee, basically not necessarily complaining, but presenting his concerns about the lack of diversity and diverse topics in these Egyptological conferences that are asking for original research. And so he was like, who among you has the training to dismiss essentially a Muba Binge Bilolo? How many of you speak 12 languages? How many of you have ever went to a royal funeral or a royal wedding? Because Muba Binge Bilolo is a prince in a royal line in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He says, who of y'all, has degrees in philosophy, and he can also read and write Greek, in classics, in terms of politics, in terms of religion? How many of y'all can say that y'all have been taught by these teachers? Who among y'all is more qualified than me to reject without any kind of conversation, the mere question of Egyptian being a Bantu language? And one of the things that he said in the text, in his open letter, was like, y'all could have at least, if y'all didn't understand the nature of the abstract, asked for a sample to be sent for y'all to consider. But y'all didn't even do that. Y'all just rejected. And so who y'all did accept was stuff that has been discussed 1,000 times over before. And so it's a club when you get to these higher levels. And so it don't matter if you African with a PhD, from Harvard and all this other kind of stuff, they'll still reject it because it's different than what they are used to. And so it's reasons like this that a Theophilo Benga and others had to start the Ankh journal. Why Malana Karenga started Sankore Press. So his second PhD, which is the book Ma'at, is published on Sankore Press. That's his publishing company. And so in order to get this, like we're thinking that these folks are special. Like they have the ultimate say and authority on knowledge. And African people are saying, no, like they just woke up one day and said, we need to create our own journal. We need to create our own publishing company. And they created their standards and they went and moved forward, and that's what they did.
Mm.
And that's what African people has to do. We create our own disciplines, we create our own standards, and then we publish our own works. And then we force them to have to deal with us. And so, and what's interesting is that there's a number of publications that have to cite Diop. They have to cite Obenga. They have to cite Lam and the late Dr. Alan Anselin and others. Like I see it in their publications, just quote unquote mainstream Egyptology. They're citing these texts that were independently published by these African scholars in their own publishing houses.
You just taught me something I didn't even know, and that right there just let me know and validate that, we on the right path as well as doing like a lot of the things of what the ancestors before us has done. They even fought tooth and nail with these, these other institutions, and they created their own. Like some of them I didn't know they created these certain institutions or publications, and now, like you just stated, with these independent publications that they publish by creating their own, now the same people that was rejected them are now using their information and citing their information, man. Wow.
And that's what you want to do, whether you agree with it or not. You have to, if you are a good scholar, you have to do your due diligence. And so it's at the point where you just can't ignore African scholars, because we're dealing with subject matter that is that other entities and other groups are interested in. So for you to even be a solid scholar, you would have to do your due diligence and do those searches for these particular scholars who are talking about a particular subject matter. So whether you agree with them or not, you still got to deal with the publications. And so over the years, this is what I've come to understand is it's really about ultimately the quality of the argument. You can write your dissertation on a series of kitchen napkins and paper towels. If it's readable and the argument is solid, I'm going to cite Brother Kofi, kitchen table, paper towel, towel number 3, whatever it is, because it's ultimately about the argument. And then, of course, your competence in the subject matter to be able to understand what is being written. And so so it's about, okay, when we put these publications out, it's not rinky-dink. It's of high quality, that it is readable, that it is accessible, to others, that it is organized very well, that your punctuation isn't all over the place, spacing is done right. Like, it has to be professional, and of course the arguments ultimately have to be sound. And that's the aim. And so that, our publication, so when in the future, like, so this is my latest book. It's technically it's supposed to come out Saturday, but you can get it now. And this is Chiluba Maweja, Yoruba Orisha, and Ancient Egyptian Ak, an exploratory etymological study, right? And although it's under Madu Ndela Press, it's really there's a sub imprint for the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. And so this is the first publication under Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. And the aim is to make this a household name. So when you see this publication, it's about to be some serious stuff.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
Hold on, brother Sar. Can I get Sutek? Can y'all put that in the chat, please? Go to Asar's website and drop the link for his new publication in the site. We want people in here. We got a lot of people in here, man. We want people to support brother Asar. And I hadn't even bought the book yet, but I'm definitely, before we get off of here, I'm gonna definitely purchase my copy. So please, Sutek or Chavis, drop the link of brother Asar's new text in the chat, man, so people can go support it.
I appreciate it. And they could go to MaduNdelaPress.com and it'll be there. Or Asar Imhotep.com. But I'm mainly going to be promoting the Madu Ndela Press, so move people there. So when the other publications, I'll only be selling them there, and of course Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, places like that. So So yeah, MaduNdelaPress.com.
All right. But yeah, okay, are you with your publishing company, are you looking for specific, let's say, um, a person was interested, and I know people be like, well, hey, how you bringing somebody on and he may be competition. It's not about competition. I just want to share, your publishing company as well, and let people know exactly what you're doing. So if somebody wanted to, so are you looking for specific manuscripts, or it doesn't matter what manuscript is presented to you? Because I know people, I'm saying it because I know people, they under the impression, even though I consider myself a pan-Africanist and a black nationalist, and people know my main focus is in Africa, but we're privy to publish whatever the client will want. So a lot of people would, won't come and patronize the company because they think that we are direct to a certain amount of information. So if it's not about where our studies in, then we won't mess with it. So, or is it a certain books that you will publish, or that you're looking for, or it doesn't matter?
We're still narrowing the focus for now, but primarily what has been published thus far has to deal with African philosophy and religion. And because I'm going to be republishing the Prayer in Africa by Dr. Kalamba and Sapo. So that'll be coming in 2022. The recent publication by Dr. Chilimamlema Mukinge, Muntu and Zombie, Portrait of Human as God's Special Creation. That is dealing with religion and philosophy. Of course, this is for the Martin Delaney series. I'm doing a series called Kimoyo, so it'll be focused on ancient Egyptian religious concepts. And so reinterpreting or further expounding on ancient Egyptian religious discourse. And in the future, I'm going to be dealing with, more science stuff, and to see if we can get some science. So like we're publishing something from Dr. Shormaka Keita, dealing with bioanthropology. And so hopefully by 2023 that'll be done. But also the arts. So while we're mainly right now dealing with African philosophy, religion, and in Egyptology, I'm getting ready to. It should be done and published sometime in January. A sister who is doing a poetry book, and so we'll be doing poetry and kind of graphic arts and novels and stuff like that. So it's ultimately we is anything that would fall under Africology or Afrofuturism.
Okay.
So that'll be Madu Ndela Press. But right now, this is just what we've been, concentrating on. But we plan on expanding, into the future. So just kind of starting off small, and getting the kinks out of the process, and and then be able to expand. So I've already gotten permission to translate Dr. Mubabingi Bilolo's book on Amen into English. And so that'll be under, Madu Ndela Press. And even Jean-Claude Mboli's Origin of African Languages, which was published in 2010, putting that into English.
Oh,
And
you gonna be
so,
doing that one? You say
yeah,
you okay, man? Because we've been and we've been trying to get that done. I know by me being a member of the Sexual Mind Email to Nature, we ended up collectively purchasing that book, and we turned it over to one of the brothers on the team, and we had actually found somebody to actually excuse me to translate the book into English, but I don't even know what happened. That's been some years ago, man, and I definitely been wanting to
it's a
have that.
work, because that's 630 something pages.
Yeah.
And that's so, and then because it's not just about translating, like you have to have a deep knowledge of the subject matter itself as well, so that you know how to properly translate, into English, these other linguistic concepts that he's dealing with. So, it's a lot. So this is why I ain't got time to be arguing folks on the internet about every little thing that come up on YouTube and stuff. Is like, this type of work needs to be out there. And so be creating a team in the near future, to deal with some of the load, and and just do the whole nine. So yeah, so those are the general public. Anything dealing with Africology and in Egyptology and Afrofuturism in arts and in poetry. So that's kind of what's in there. So, and I'm be working on, because there's no African-centered introduction into Egyptology books. So I'm working on that. And so that'll be under the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology.
Okay, man. That's so is and I'm excited too. Like I was telling you, well, I would say hopefully, we ended up getting a client, and I done looked at some of the poetry. We're gonna turn it into 2 books. I know he had a family emergency last week, but hopefully this week we'll be able to get it back in, and he get that deposit, and we can go ahead and start, man, with that book. But start with his poetry book, man. That'll be the first, something of us doing a poetry book. But with the various works that you just talked about, a lot of this stuff, does it comes overwhelming, and how do you pace yourself? And I'm asking this because this is a question for me. Like right now, man, we got about maybe 6 or 7 publications on the table right now, and it's outside of the team, which y'all will see in the upcoming weeks. We our very first publication outside, and then we'll have another one following. Then we'll have someone within the group, Brother Chavis, who is a newest member, also be publishing his thing. Do that as well. And we have something else I'll be announcing pretty soon dealing with the children. They actually see the flyers and stuff go up this week. But how do you, is it overwhelming for you? And how do you pace it out where you're not stressed out and overworking yourself?
Well, it's, how someone would say it took me 10 years to be an overnight success. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the same underlying theme when it comes to even the publications that I've published recently. And so a lot of this is the accumulated research over 20 years. So it's not overwhelming because the major stuff has already been done. Of course, there's still a lot of research going into, make sure that is up to date, what I've been doing. But I've been collecting these notes and doing this research for over 20 years now. So, like even with this text here, the inspiration behind this text comes from me working on this text, which is the Muntu and Zombie. So when I was editing this book for Dr. Mukinge, he mentioned the name Maweja, which is, you know, one of the names or titles of the divine or God among the Baluba people. And when he was listing off the various names of God in Chiluba, God is also known as Maweja or Ninga Maweja, which was he defined the first term, but when it came to Maweja, he didn't define it. And so I sent the manuscript. Well, I sent a note to him saying, hey, you know, do you know the definition of this term? Because you name one half of the name. I mean, you define one half of the name, and then you just didn't define the other one. And so he really didn't have a definition for it. So I just started looking so that, you know, we can put the definition along with the other definitions for the name God, when you talk about Maweja Nangila, and Nangila being a word for love. And you know, I was finding it hard and harder. There was no literature dealing with the etymology and the meaning of the name Maweja, or at least that's what I thought. And so, you know, I just took it upon myself, like I have this I don't know if it's a condition, but it's something in me, like once I see a problem to be solved, I'm obsessed with it. I can't do anything else until that problem is solved. And so while editing his book, I was simultaneously researching for this name Maweja. And when I finally came across some publications that at least attempted to do it, it led me to some other ideas. And then that's when I just started, you know, doing what I do, and came to make some other discoveries, and noticed that it aligned with some research that I already had done and was already doing. And so once I aligned this new information with what I was already doing, it ended up being this book here, you know, Chiluba Maweja, Yoruba Orisha, and Ancient Egyptian Ak. And so essentially saying that all three of those names for the divine or God are the exact same word. And so once I already had most of that legwork done already, it wasn't a thing for me to go back in and kind of organize it and put the pieces together, because I already had a foundation doing some other research that wasn't even connected to this, if that makes sense. So it's when you already have the research. This is like, you know, when you're dealing with University of Kemet Press, Dr. Takai Kilimanjaro in it. That's 30 years of research, but they published 30 books in 5 years. How's that possible? If they were just starting to do the research within that would be impossible. But because they already had accumulated notes that were organized over this 30-year span, you know, updating and get rid of, you know, information that didn't pan out and stuff over the time. Now, when you're coming to write the book, is really you're just organizing your notes. And so that, you know, so, you know, the real difficult, you still gotta, you know, make sure that, you know, you're looking for the latest publications so that you can include it, so you can do your due diligence in your, you know, your works cited and all this other kind of stuff. So, but it's not so that's part of it. And then of course it's just time management. So, if you're on social media all day, if you're sitting here arguing with folks that ultimately don't mean anything to your purpose, you're not going to have enough time to get what you need done. You'd be amazed at what you can get accomplished when you just organize your week and stick to your plan, and you set aside the necessary time to do it.
That's some good advice right there, man. That's some great advice right there. That's why I choose wisely and careful, man, how I engage and how I utilize my time. Like, I don't have time to jump in and argue with a lot of people on Facebook or even on YouTube, because I got a lot of stuff going on. I feel like a lot of important things that's going on, not only for my family, but but also for the people who I say that I'm with, or those who are trying to learn, or those who are trying to better understand. So I don't have time to be on Facebook and YouTube 8, 9, 10 hours a day, arguing with somebody that really is not even versed or in the subject matter in the beginning. Googling something for 30 minutes don't make you a researcher, make you versed in that information. And also, you hit a key point far as with the collection, with the information collecting data over time. That is something that I also did with my beautiful lessons about Kimoyo. It was just over time on me having conversations with individuals like yourself and Unc and brother Sanjetti and brother Ben and various other people, and other resources that I may have and sources that I use that I take and write. Like, I got in this file cabinet, I got tons of tablets, and I jot down information from here and there, and certain things that I get from here and there, and certain stuff that I read, whether it's a book or whether it's a journal or whether it's a article. So that's definitely vital. Collecting as much data as you can. I may not be probably as organized as you was, because I got stuff everywhere, man. I need to do better with that organizing. But I just
don't get it confused. Y'all just see up here. If you saw, well, it's not so bad here because I don't have all my books. But when in the office in Philly, I'll have books all on the floor, notes, stuff, and it's all organized in my mind, because I know where to find the stuff, but it just be, all over, because I need to be able to grab here and make this, these types of notes. But, and what I have to do more is, and this, and, we say it all the time, you gotta create a team. And so for the level in which I plan to take it, I'm going to have to get a team, because I can't be dealing with the administrative part and be trying to research at the same time, and then be involved with some other stuff. And then of course, if you got a wife or a girlfriend, and that and just family in general, got birthdays coming up, you got your boys, you want to deal with. Now, I've even asked this question to, I took some advice from I've had him on my program, Dr. Abdul Karim Bangura. I don't know if y'all can see. It's kind of glaring, and it's just a shiny book to begin with. This is Branches of Asanteism by Dr.
Yeah, we can see it. They saw it.
Yeah. So this is this publication here is just one of many. This brother here, like I ain't shit. Excuse my cussing, but first and foremost, this brother has 5 PhDs. brother out of Sierra Leone. And one PhD in political science, another in mathematics, another PhD in computer science, another PhD in linguistics, and I forgot what the other PhD is in, but he has 5 and 3 masters. So 5 PhDs, 3 masters, and he has over, I want to say 50 publications.
Wow.
And so, you know, and I asked him, like, bro, it's clear you have no life. So in order to do that, having no life is part of the equation. But, you know, but in terms of time management and things of that nature, he would be a very good person to be in communication with. Same thing with Dr. Malefi Asante himself. And I was on I was listening to an interview that he was being interviewed live from Dr. What's his name? Falalin. I don't know what's his name mentions him. Toyin, it's like Toyin Falolin or something like that. I'm totally messed up the name. And I know the name, and it's just slipping me at the moment. But he was asked that question. He was just like, you know, he was like, I wish I could tell you that, you know, I had this plan, but he's just like, I write when I can. So he's like, when I finish this interview, I'm gonna be writing. So, you know, at least for 2 hours. Sometimes I'll write all night, you know, and sometimes I may only get 30 minutes in, but I just write when I can. And, you know, Dr. Malefi Asante has like 70 publications. That's outside of just the general articles that he's written.
70?
Yes.
Well, I didn't know. I know we had a lot of them, but
look,
it was golly.
And one of my mentors who just recently passed, he passed at the beginning of this year, Dr. James Conyers. He's also one of a frat brother of mine. Dr. James Conyers, I want to say that he had over, I know it's over 30 publications. And I think he was trying to catch up with us with Dr. Asante. But like I would witness what he would do. So when I was in undergrad, and this is what 2001, 2002, in the later part of my schooling, I would go to visit Dr. Conyers in the African American Studies program office. And, you know, since he was head of the program, what he'll do is he'll come in, he'll say hi to everybody, and then, you know, he'll do some administrative stuff. He'll may have a meeting with the staff, and then, you know, he'll teach a class, and then he'll have probably like a parent meeting or something like this. So this is all before 12 o'clock, right? All this is getting done. Then after that, he would just be in his office writing. And every single time that I would come in there, he's writing or editing a new book. And so when I remember this one time I was coming to visit, because by this time I took all the African American studies courses that I could take legally, you know, at the university. And so, but I would just come anyway to sit on some of the classes, or like when they would have a special guest come through, I would come and sit in classes. So I just came one day to visit, and he took some time out to chop it up with me, but he was working on one text, and on the laser printer he was printing out the text that he just finished writing on Dr. John Henry Clark. So like, it's not even, as soon as he finishes one text, he's working on the other. Matter of fact, Dr. Bangura, what he said what he did with his PhDs is that okay, so when you do a PhD, there's a certain amount of classes that you have to take. And then after that, you work on your dissertation. So what he would do is he would take his classes, and then when it was time for his dissertation to be done, he would take some more classes for another degree while simultaneously working on the dissertation, because he didn't have to take any classes. You're just working on the dissertation, your research. So he was overlapping. So while he was finishing up one PhD, he was starting another PhD program, and it would overlap in terms of time. And so you just got to have a certain level of organization and just know life at a moment of time to get this stuff done.
Yeah, you're right about that, man. You got to have no life. And if I don't slow down from what I'm doing, I ain't going to have no life. I'm going to be divorced with no life. So I'll definitely go out to slow down, man. But that's wow. 70 publications, 30 publications, 50, man, that's something that I would like to have one day, but I know that's going to take some time for me to acquire all those things. Maybe I can accomplish those things before I leave here, man. But that's astounding. We got Brother Chavis, man. Again, man, sorry too, y'all. I thought I had threw the link in the back chat, and I just thought about it and put it in there. But we got Brother Chavis on the platform. Brother Chavis, you got anything? We got probably about 20 more minutes, and then we're gonna wrap the interview up.
He giving out a lot of game and a lot of just the blueprint on how to do what we be doing. Like a lot of what he said, like especially like with the organization, the notes, I did that just innately, but it made me, when he said it, it let me know I'm doing stuff and I'm going in the right direction basically. So
appreciate it. And another thing that we always got to remember as well is that when we're doing research, you always want to keep in mind that your objective as a researcher is, besides answering a critical question, is more so about expanding knowledge. So you don't, unless you're writing textbooks for, a particular class, if you're doing research, you're trying to answer a question that no one else has answered.
Right.
And so when you're able to do that, you add more value to your publication.
Yeah.
Because this is why, when you do your dissertations, your PhD or your master's, they tell you to narrowly focus on something that hasn't been addressed or has been little addressed. Because the whole point of a PhD, for example, besides getting jobs in academia or whatever it is you want to do, is to demonstrate to the world that you can produce knowledge. And that's the state that you want to be able to get to. And that's why, for example, it's hard for some of us in the quote unquote conscious community to kind of understand the work that individuals like myself and Bilolo and Mboli and Obenga and Diop, etc., they're always in opposition because they don't understand what it means to be a producer of knowledge and not simply a regurgitator of knowledge. And regurgitating, and that's a strong word, you know, because, you know, I break down this process in terms of, you have enthusiasts, you have teachers, and then you have researchers and scholars, and their objectives are different. Their goals are different. And so usually an enthusiast is studying for their own self-fulfillment. You know, they're not necessarily concerned with method and things of that nature. They're just trying to get the information.
Interesting.
Then you have teachers. Teachers are individuals who study the greater material, but they're studying with the purpose of teaching others the subject, right? And this may involve writing books, but they're writing summaries to teach others. That's different than an academic scholar, because an academic scholar is producing knowledge that they hope becomes standard and canon in the future. These are the individuals who research and study to put their ideas out there in the academic marketplace to be vetted, to become the common knowledge that the teachers incorporate in their lesson plans. And so what you have a lot of times is people not really understanding their place in all of this.
Boy,
trying to, you know, you have a lot of enthusiasts, and some people, they aren't even in the enthusiast, because the enthusiast has a love and a passion for the subject. I haven't thought of a name for this type of person, but you've run into these individuals who just glance at information, flirts at information to make arguments, but don't have an in-depth, they're not studied well enough to understand the nuances of knowledge and to be able to ask the right questions in things. But, you know, if you are an enthusiast or below, you won't necessarily understand what is going on in the research world and the arguments and debates and things there. And even if you're a teacher, you won't necessarily understand that. Everyone has their role, because if you're a teacher, you're collecting the information for the enthusiasts or future scholars in the field. Because somebody, just because you're a good researcher, don't mean you're a good teacher. And that's a totally separate art.
Right.
You know, and we need teachers to be able to break down and communicate that complex data to those of us who are coming up in knowledge, for us to be able to digest it so that we want to learn more and know how to go further into the field. And so your Dr. John Henry Clark's, he was a good teacher. He wasn't necessarily the best scholar. He was summarizing, taking information to be able to summarize it and put it in digestible form so that it becomes food for the reader and the listener who for those who
Information
had the
literate.
privilege. I'm sorry?
Called information literate, right? Information literacy.
You could call it that. I have no problem with that. It's just that, you know, it's just certain people like, you know, like John Henry Clark was just a good ass teacher. And he just had a way of communicating with you. Check on to Diop, on the other hand, he was a scholar. He was a researcher. He didn't care if you understood the information or not. He's putting it in a way that is scientific. He's speaking to the scientific community. But you need individuals who can understand that stuff and come back to the community and teach. Those are teachers. And, you know, and the enthusiasts, they're just studying for their own self satisfaction. They're not necessarily wanting to go out and teach. They're trying to get this information to use it in their lives to better their lives. And that's ultimately why we're doing this research in the first place, so that we can provide information, we can provide processes, we can provide, you know, solutions to problems so that ultimately people improve their lives with the data that we've been able to accumulate over time. And so I'll just end there.
Okay. Anybody else, man? Is any other brother jump on here, Chavis, or you just the only one, man?
I'm not sure, but I
see
think
Brother T'Challa.
okay, yeah. Let him go.
Peace, Brother T'Challa Bangara.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah, you know I had to hop on here for my main man, Asar. Peace to you, brother.
Peace and blessings. Peace.
Actually hopping in on the tail end of what you were saying. I'm an educator myself. I you know, so I'm in the communities teaching, trying to understand and communicate complex philosophies, and you know, I try to get in my Asar mode and communicate a linguistic point when I'm trying to argue with somebody about, you know, why they don't know what they're talking about, why the eye on my shoulder is not the pineal gland. And it's rough out here. That's why, you know, Kofi Piesie exists, is to, you know, we are doing some work here. Even if 3 people watch a YouTube video, from Brother Asar to anybody that's any one of our supporters in the chat, hardworking people just trying to make it and navigate this world as an African displaced in America. And as Africans diasporically, I think we do need to understand those points of everybody is not meant to be. I know how to research. Can I always be better? Of course, that's why I'm here. That's why, you know, it's do I know how to teach? Of course. Can I always be better? Sure. You know, there's always room for improvement, but then there are people who are just one, like you say, the greats that we look at, we got to recognize where Dr. Bing was. We got to recognize where Rosa Parks was. We got to recognize where Jehudi Mess III was. We got to recognize where these characters are in history. Queen Amina, your mom, my mom, everybody's there in a certain capacity to serve the community at that time. Brother Kofi's great at what he's great at. We always tease him about his speech and his words, but this is one intelligent brother. Our dear brother Kofi. We got to recognize where these characters are.
Yeah, we all got a role to play, you know, and I think I'm a very good researcher. I'm very mediocre in teaching, and that's one I'm trying to get better at. You know,
You do a good job. You do a good job. I learned a lot.
Yes,
Just
you
alone.
yeah, you the standard right now, man. You definitely are the standard right now, man.
I don't know about that.
You the standard, man.
That's too much pressure, you know. Somebody might slip a Mickey at the club, and then I'm naked with some white midgets. Did all that just out the window.
They'll say you were trying to buy CBS.
You know what I'm saying? Buy ABC. Now look at it. It's conspiracy.
Yeah.
But no, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, peace us, brother Sutek, man.
What up, y'all?
Man, you got something for brother Asar, man, before we wrap up the news. I know it was this. We been at it for a minute. I didn't even know we've been at it this minute, but that's what when they say time flies when you're having fun. Well, I'm having fun. I don't know about nobody else, but I'm having fun.
When you get that good conversation in, that time just zip by so fast. But yeah, man, for the people in the chat and for my curiosity as well, it's been some conversations going on about Queen Nzinga, that she was a slaver, and her intent was to enslave people. She was ruthless. She was this and that. Like, I don't know if you caught any of that, but how do you feel on that topic?
Yeah, I think context is key. I haven't been able to catch, because again, I'm still in school myself.
Hold on, I don't mean to cut you off, but what is that first thing you said again?
Context.
Yeah, context. Okay, gotcha. Just making sure, because when we try to give context, we got belittled for it. So I just wanted to hear. I wanted to let people hear that come from you as well. Like, context is definitely key. But my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've dealt with Nzinga, and so I can't recall off the top of my head all the details. I do remember that she inherited the throne from her brother Alfonso, and he was heavily into the slave trade, and she got involved in it herself. But it's what I have to keep reminding folks is that when they say that Africans were selling other Africans, there was no Africans then.
I tried to explain that to them too.
There, that's something we're projecting back into history. There's no sense of a collective Africanness at this time. It's just, people warring with each other. And then it's like they don't have a slave. There's very few nations in Africa that actually had a slave economy. I can only think of three. And that is the Ashanti kingdom, the Benin kingdom, and the Congo. And that was short-lived. But everyone else was mainly just kind of like the victims of the slave trade, and or it was like it wasn't governments involved. It was more so individual groups, that were involved and trying to get into the pay. Because you got to think, if they don't have a slave economy, they weren't building a nation using slaves. So that wasn't the thing. That wasn't the dominant thing in Africa. And so, but I would have to hear what exactly was being said, on both sides, So usually when y'all see me in the chat, I'm just stopping by because I'm either at work and I'm just being lazy at work and trying to get some other things, and not trying to work, or I'm in transition, getting ready to do some schooling or something like that. So I catch a little bit and then I gotta go, because I just got some other things to do. So I'm aware of the debates, but I don't know who said what, when, how it all started. I have no insight into that.
Yeah, it was so the pseudo killers feel like there was an indigenous African slavery before Islam and Arabs, before Europeans, that there were slave economies in the indigenous systems. And I try to, we try to explain to them that you can't be that overgeneralized to just put everybody in the same pot. And two, like you have to show that, like you can't just make assumptions.
Yeah, because if it hadn't been and I'm just keep saying it, you can't keep assuming it. Show us what you're talking about. Where the sources at? Show us the sources that Africans had enslaved economy prior to the European or the Arab coming in. The only reference they give us is when the Arabs was in that area and when the Europeans was in that area, Pacific, the Portuguese, and the Dutch when we dealing with Central Africa. But I mean, and most when they talk about West Africa, they talking about the presence of Islam being in West Africa at these particular time periods. So they have not shown that there were an slave economy prior to any invader coming into Africa. I'm still waiting to see that.
Yeah, that's gonna. But then again, this is why I made that comment that I did earlier, in terms of the three primary, and I haven't come up with a name for that fourth category, which I would, if there is a hierarchy, I would put it right underneath the enthusiasts, because again, the enthusiasts, they're studying for their own, like this is their own real research interest. But for individuals like that, they just want to argue about something. So they don't know about research methods and to ask those nuanced questions. Like define what is a slave in the native language? Was it, did it constitute first of all, you have to define slavery in the first place, because what you may be calling slavery may not have existed in a particular society. For example, the Foucault in one of his texts talks about how somebody belongs to a slave caste in the Congo. But the way that he said it, he was like, it's not slavery, like they're forced labor to like build for some, wealthy landowner or the government per se. What they call a slave is somebody who is being adopted by the community because they left and abandoned their home community. They have it's something along the lines of they have no protection or they have no ancestors. So when you come into a new society, you have to kind of earn your way, into the society. But it's not no forced labor situation. Because remember, you can just leave. There's no, see, it's different like in the United States when they took us, our ancestors, and brought us here. We're in a land where we don't know the terrain. We don't know where to go. We don't know where home is. We don't have ships to cross the ocean to go back home. That's why when the colonizers came into Africa, it wasn't slavery per se in Africa. They were getting slaves or getting Africans to be enslaved, but they had to do something different. It was a whole colonial project because the people know the land. They're at home, And so if you talk about I'm enslaved, unless you got me chained up to something, these people have, mud huts and straw huts. Some places they have bricks, but there's no, what you gonna tie them to a tree so they can't escape? They don't have no chains, none of that type of stuff. while you sleep, they could just get up and walk and leave. So it's a totally different dynamic when you're in your space. So what Fukuyama talks about is an adoption for someone who was abandoned. So say they did a crime in their home village and got kicked out. So now they disowned them. So now they're coming here. Well, you got to earn your way here. And so we put you in a class that when translated to English, they put as slave. But you can marry, you know, you can get into high positions. It's the same thing that even happened in ancient Egypt.
I tried to explain this. Sorry, I tried to explain this. I only been in one of the conversations, and all the rest of them, I don't have time to be in those conversations because after the first conversation, they're not listening, man. So I did the same thing that you're talking about, man. I said some of the same very things, man, and they rejected the information. They rejected.
Yeah, then it started to turn into more of an emotional based argument because they started to spew some of the rhetoric that Portuguese, because you know we get the story of Nzinga from the Portuguese mainly, so they are spewing the Portuguese rhetoric like she's manly, masculine, she was a tyrant, you know, like the exact sentiments of the Portuguese. Like they even started calling her a female dog and all that. Like it kind of got crazy.
Yeah, but that's why, you know, Africology is important, because in Africology, we learn how to systematically and critically analyze the literature, because you always have to do your literature review. And you know, it's a thing in Africology we call location theory. And when you're reading the text, you're trying to locate the author. This is where the whole concept of Afrocentricity is coming from. Is the story being told by the people of the community? And how can we tell if this is the case? Or is this somebody who is outside of the center trying to make sense in their world, from their worldview, the African history or the African phenomena? And so you have to have those tools, because any Africologist would have clearly known exactly who was writing and who was making these sentiments, because we look for the position and the framework and the worldview of the author, because this tells us a lot on the motivations behind what is written. And so every culture, every person has a center. So where is their center? Is their center African? Is it, in this particular case, is it Congo? Or is it European? And if you would have gone through that training, you would have been able to spot that immediately. And that wouldn't even have been a center of conversation.
That, if I may, that's what I say too about, you know, I always speak about music because that's primarily the lane that I offer. My hands are so thick, right? No homo. Yeah, I gotta feel like I gotta say that behind that. But my hands are calloused from the amount of time that I put in study to understand what it means to be a coastal West African. We're talking Malian Empire, right? That history, that era. So when somebody makes claims like the northern, you know, Africans are the same as those sub-Saharan Africans there, you have to ask those same questions. Well, for one, who says that they're the same? Is it you or is it them? Brother Sutek goes in when it comes to deciphering if the Arabs wrote the literature to talk about the people, if the Portuguese wrote the literature, as he mentioned, or is it something that our brothers and sisters on the continent are distinguishing that they're making and saying, are they the same or they're different people? What do the brothers and sisters in Senegal say about Northern Africans from Morocco? No different than the conversation of what do the Portuguese say about Queen Nzinga versus, you know, the nigga at the barbershop, you know, wanting to talk. No disrespect, but if you just at the barbershop talking about even some literature you reviewed, you haven't done your research when you're talking anything African. You want to understand what type of food do these people eat with their slave economies that you had? Because the slaves couldn't eat the same food. We know from experience here, the slaves weren't eating the same food as everybody else. So what type of food was the slaves eating? Since it was such a slave economy, or since we willingly participated in such a modern, you know what I mean, this sort of century concept of even just the phenomenon we perceive as reality. The same concept of food and giving food is disrespected in this culture with the whole Hotep thing. Bringing the conversation back, I think people need to understand that there's a lot more culture that you have to explore, even if you're having an intellectual discussion online about anything as it pertains to Africans, diasporically. Even here in America, I can't just get Asar is a completely different brother than me, than Kofi, Sutek. We all align on this mission, but we are all different brothers. Brother Chavis, Brother Satep, you know what I'm saying? Brother Sean, anybody in the chat, we're all different kind of Black people, but we're all what? African centered. Just wanted to say that.
Indeed.
Oh, I had Mike muted, man. But yeah, I had I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get all my questions out, man. I try not to have these interviews too long, but like I said, when you're having fun times, flies, man. But before you get off of here, brother, so I want to ask you this last question, man, and we can end the interview, man. Can you give any advice to those who want to write a book, start a publishing or creating an online apparel store? Because you also, as well as we do, you have a publishing company, where you produce various publications of your own and other publications that you're starting to work on outside of yourself, and you have uh, uh, an online apparel store, which I really need to get that again because I've been looking for it, because I've been trying to get me some Kimoyo t-shirts, and I've been trying to stroll through the thread to try to find where you had posted it, but I can't find it. So, but can you give anyone that is, that's wanting to write a book, start a published company, and create an apparel store, what kind of advice can you give those?
Well, I'll tackle each one individually. So regardless of the endeavor, you have to study the craft of whatever it is, whether it's, in terms of graphic design, color theory, typology, typeface, knowing what's the best fonts, what colors contrast, know the difference between vector and raster images. And so, I got practice in that because, I've been doing is simultaneously over the years, web development, graphic design, and photography. So I just already have a natural knack for the design process because I've been doing that since high school. And I got started in it because I couldn't afford a graphic designer to create a flyer for the first party that I threw in high school. So this was like 11th grade. And we threw a pajama party at a club, and it was off the chain, high schoolers. And so, and it just kind of escalated from there. So getting your experience in, you know, and learning the craft of whatever it is first and foremost. So now when it comes to writing, you're going to have to do two fundamental things. Firstly, you're going to have to read a lot. And what you need to do when you're reading is to pay attention to the way that the authors write and the kind of the layout in things and how they organize it depending upon what genre that you are wanting to write in. So, you know, practice with a few blogs. Send some short chapters to people who, you know, you love and respect that can give you feedback on it. And try to, you know, try to at least imitate the style. Like I remember when I first started doing, because remember, I went to school for software development. And so it wasn't much of essays and stuff. We had a few that when I was taking my minor courses, but you know, writing essays was not a part of the general thing because we were coding all the time. So when I started writing on my blog first. And then I would send certain chapters to scholars that I knew that I had personal relationships with, and they would give me feedback. And I would try to imitate. I remember looking at Dr. Charles S. Finch's book, The Star of Deep Beginnings. I'm like, when I write, I want to write like this, because he was very clear and concise. He wrote in a way that was scholarly, but that if you didn't have a deep background in it, you can still follow and understand and gain knowledge in the subject. And that, you know, when he did his footnotes, it was a footnote. It wasn't an end note that I had to skip through the pages to get the information. Like his stuff was right there, you know, at the bottom. I just admired that book for aesthetic reasons, for the composition and is easy to read nature, and then of course the subject matter itself. So I'm looking at publications and seeing how they're doing it. So now when it comes time for me to write, I already have some ideas in mind of what I need to include and things. So, you know, of course, if you've gone through the university track, you know, part of the writing, you kind of learn that, because that's you know, depending upon what field you're in. So like if you're doing any kind of sociology work or anthropology, you have to write like real heavy like that. So understand that kind of writing is going to be different than scientific writing and things. So not only that, get books about the writing in the subject. And so like I got books on how to write scientific books and how to write scientific articles, how to write linguistic books. So get those books, study them, and take their advice. Now, when it comes to publication, that's a totally different beast. Because, you know, if you're a self-publisher, you got to understand this, okay, now it's a business. So not only do you have to write the text, you're going to have to find someone to edit. You're going to have to find someone to lay it out. Luckily, because I'm a graphic designer, I can lay out my own books, but you're going to have to find someone to edit. You're going to need a second pair of eyes. So that's going to cost you some ends. You're going to have to get, you know, your stuff reviewed by people. So send a chapter here and there to some people who you respect, you know, depending upon your timeline. But now you're going to have to consider marketing. How are you going to market? Who is your book marketed to? Is it a very small niche group? Like when I'm, this book here, this publication, I'm not sure if it's going to be on Amazon's, bestseller list, in competition with Harry Potter and Dune. This is a very narrow interest, and I understand that. But you're going to have to learn how to market. You're going to have to build relationships. You're going to have to communicate with libraries and get your stuff, try to get your stuff put in libraries. You're going to have to try and get your stuff in the bookstores. Now you're going to have to build a website. Really, you're going to have to put yourself together a team. And you make sure that, everyone that's involved in the team, that is mutually beneficial for everyone to sacrifice their sweat and time and resources. But that's pretty much what you do. And you just, again, you study the craft. Buy books on publication. What to consider in terms of where you get your ISBNs from.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best printer? What size is respectable for your genre? So you're going to have to do a lot more. You're going to have to become more administrator in business if you're doing the publication side. Now, if you're just writing and sending it off to other publishers, you just got to worry about the content. But if you are writing and publishing, there's other factors that you have to consider, and especially if you're not part of a big machine and you're building from scratch. So that's something to consider. And then again, with the apparel, same thing. It's the apparel is an oversaturated market, but are your ideas original? And do you have great graphics? Do you have something that stands out that makes people want to wear what you got and represent your brand? And so this may require you to take up some if you're just not just a dope artist by yourself, to take up how to do logos, take up how to do vector graphics, invest in a good computer and Adobe Illustrator and or Corel Draw, or use an open source alternative, to get your feet wet. And so just start off with one shirt, one hat, one whatever, and then test the market and go out there and grind and try to get it is seen as much as possible. And then again, and so regardless, on the publishing side and the apparel side, and regardless, everything, the business, the taxes, set your tax straight, whether you're an LLC, whether you're an S corp, set that up. Get a separate bank account for your business, and don't use your personal account. You want to be able to separate these things and understand your taxes. So, this is something that I plan on covering, in the near future on my channel, and that is planning for success. And so we plan for the idea, but we don't plan for when we actually make it big. And so those things like, the having a separate bank accounts, understanding taxes and things of that nature is just as important as getting the publications and stuff out there. So you want to be professional. You want to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and that you understand the nature of quality. And so no matter what you do, make sure that what you give to the people is of the highest quality that you can create and or afford at the moment, because it's that which is going to help to bring repeat customers and to increase, you know, your brand awareness and things of that nature, because now your name, your publications, your designs are now synonymous with quality, and that's ultimately where you want to get. So that's just a few things in a nutshell.
Oh man, that was some great advice. I hope everybody you know was paying attention and listening to everything that you said, man. I totally agree, man. And it's definitely some work, man, if you writing and you publishing. Even if you're writing, like you said, you're gonna have to read. All of this stuff is really time consuming, and you really got to be dedicated to what you're doing, and you got to be, you know, willing to learn, to perfect what you're getting, because you know this every step that you said, you know, we actually took, and a lot of it was mistake and error, you know, and we had to learn. A lot of it was, you know, reading and researching, and a lot of it was investing. Like, you know, you mentioned like certain programs, like, man, you ought to see my bill as far as the programs that I pay for every month. You know, it's a lot of programs that I had to pay for, even with, you know, logos. You know, if you're not an artist, you know, be a mentor up under somebody. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to publish you know, have a publishing company, you know, get up under mentorship with somebody, you know, and you know, and everything is, and I'm saying with these mentorships like I did, it wasn't free. I had to pay for consulting. You know, we also does the same thing now with our company. We have consulting. You know, you can pay for consulting. So, but I agree, man, with everything, man, that you said. I hope everybody listening, man, and I appreciate you, man. We greatly appreciate you again for coming on the platform. I know I learned a lot, man. You shared a lot with us, man, and I know, man, your time is very valuable, man. So that's why I keep thanking you, man, for coming on the platform and, you know, being a man of your word. You know, also a lot of us will say stuff and we won't actually do what we say we do. So every time that you say you're gonna do something, you actually do it, man. So I appreciate you, man, for everything that you've done. I appreciate you for even the growth, even before we started the publishing company, just helping out on the end for us, what you was explaining about, you know, marketing and selling and creating your own publishing company, man. I reached out and you created a website for us, but we was able to sell our publications on, man. So we appreciate you, man. And I'm just gonna keep saying, I know you said don't say it, but right now you are the standard. Hopefully that, you know, you won't nobody give you a Mickey and you be butt naked with some white midgets, man. But yeah, we appreciate you, man, for hopping on, man. As long as you was on here, I wasn't planning on it for it to go this long, man. But I know some people got some stuff out of it, just like I got some stuff out of it, man. So we appreciate you. And as soon as I jump off here, I'm definitely finna purchase your new publication. And I need the link, man. Send me the link to your apparel company so I can get some off of there. And once I go back into the description, I'm going to put the description of where they can purchase your book from your publishing company, as well as if they want some apparel, some of your apparel, they can click the link also in the description and get some of the dope stuff, man, that you got on there, man. As well, man. We gotta support each other, man. We really gotta support each other. And again, patronize the author. Patronize the author. Go, you know, to the author and patronize him. Go directly to him. It's okay to get stuff from off these various marketplaces that we may have our publications on, but you want to patronize the author, man. You want the author to get the much amount of money as possible for his intellectual property. And we talked about that on author's perspective as well, those different percentage when we talk about Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Target and these other places that we, you know, marketplaces that we try to get into. But you know, like I said, appreciate it again, man. Do you have any last word for the listening audience, man, before I shut the program down?
Again, I just appreciate everyone for listening, and for you for having me, inviting me onto the program. And I'm pretty accessible, at least for now, until I become Jay-Z level. Then you have to speak to my secretary. But for now, I'm accessible, so y'all can hit me up anytime. You can go to my website, asarimhotep.com, and just hit the contact link and send an email if you don't have my email already. I'm pretty much on all the social media, and so yeah, continue to support the work, and just keep in mind, when you are purchasing an author's book, it's more than the cost of the book itself. I do this I tell people to do this as an exercise. If you have the time, you just got some time to waste, go to one of your favorite books and go down the list in the bibliography, and go to Amazon.com and type in each book and calculate how much each book cost. And then put that together, and then look at what you paid for your book. And in comparison to what the author had to pay in order to even put, that's not including the editing costs, the layout costs, the print costs. We're just talking about the bibliography itself. And so you come to appreciate what the time and monetary sacrifices that these authors have put in into putting these works together. So when you are purchasing these books from these authors, they're reinvesting those funds into other authors to help expand our knowledge and to provide useful information to improve our lives. And so support the work that you see brother Kofi and the entire research team is producing. Make sure that you like the videos so that they can be real disrespectful to the YouTube algorithm and show up, in between Meg Thee Stallion and, Kevin Samuel videos that pop up in your timeline. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Kofi Piesie YouTube channel, and let's increase those numbers. And lastly, make sure that you share the videos so that you can keep the conversation going and introduce this channel and others to new audiences, to your friends, and help expand their knowledge base. So thank you for having me. Thank you for your support. Thank everyone for listening and watching, and y'all have a blessed coming week.
All right. So real quick, man, again, man, go get that beautiful lessons about Kimoyo. Go get Spirit Masters, Historical Survey in the Minds of African Warrior Scholars, Volume 4. And go get What SARS COVID Had Taught Me, written by Eni Harriet Sean Calfani. All those you can find on our publishing company website, Same Tree, Different Branch Publishing. Go get all 3 of those copies. If you don't have the other copies, though, all the other volumes, as well as my kids' books, Sean's kids' book, my, you could say, autobiography, that's As I Learn, We All Learn, sharing information with others, and Sean's book, From Cocaine to Conscious. They are all also available on the website as well. And be on the lookout tomorrow. I'll be posting a flyer and probably make an announcement. We started the Spear Masters institution, and this Spearmaster institution is for the children and for, we could say, the young adults or young teenagers. So the first thing coming out of the Spearmasters institution, which is published up under the same tree, Different Branch Publishing, is I'll just say it's our coloring book. So we finna drop a educational coloring book, introduce y'all to these characters, which is going to be in these different volumes, Kojo, Bina, and Chiki, an older guy and two young teenagers who will be giving you the stories of the things that they'll be coloring in the book. So as they're coloring, they'll be learning, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the upcoming weeks, but be on the lookout for that flyer, because we're definitely finna drop that. And then also behind that, we'll have the comprehension book that we're trying to get everybody else involved in. This will be for the teenagers. So we're trying to get those, raise the comprehension level up for our teenagers, as well for the adults, because we know a lot of people, adults as well, comprehension levels is not what they need to be. But again, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let me go back up here and change this camera. All right, for tuning in, I said ETM Hotep in the beginning, which means bring forth peace. Also, Sean said he's going to do a part 4. I wish he'd be letting me know what time so I can be.
Yeah, he coming in right after you. As soon as you in.
Yeah, I didn't know. I wish I would be, I would be ready, but I'll jump in there once I get me something to eat. But I said ETM Hotep in the beginning, which means bring forth peace. So now I'm gonna say Shemin Hotep. Shemin Hotep just means to depart in peace and Black African power. Like I said again, we appreciate you. Be on the lookout for the announcement of the coloring book, the flyers, the specific release date, the pre-order dates, all those things as well. Also go and support our brother Asar Imhotep. When you leave here, please go to his website and purchase all of his publications, and go to his apparel company and get you some of them dope shapes. I know I'm definitely gonna get me some tonight. So again, peace and Black African power. Man, we out of here. I'm gonna leave you with a different song from Fortune. I don't know which one it is. Might be Fireproof, but we out of here. Peace, y'all.
Yeah. It's so real. So real. Yeah. I'm subhuman. What kind of woman wanna love a mutant? Resort to me after these thugs use them. My bedroom is a strange ruin. Last time I hit a chick was King driving, she ain't done suing. I'm done doing wasted years, I'm ruined. I attempt to shoot and score, but it's my destiny to be a troubadour. A true whore, I'm like a Labrador. Retriever receiving the red flag matador. I'm mad at the world. I once portrayed I was a savage to bedazzle a girl. Stiletto heels and sew-ins, I would lavish her. Told me I was soft, trying to romance her, I should ravish her. World around, left me for real niggas, the word around. World renowned, what mirrors reveal, I admit. I'll always be a coward and I ain't worth shit. Roses I read, the double Glock between my eyes blue. It's imminent, I'm too fucking effeminate, I'm a fool.
I've always put my pride aside, I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise, simply play it cool. I'm foolish, yeah.
I'm so self-conscious with no self-conscious. It's times I went too far and I got some mental scarring. I had this melanated girl but hesitated to be thorough. My time went in the rounds, I'm trying to elevate the world. Mutual attraction but lacking physically in figure. Contrast to the ass being the famous rapper. Get your is brewing, other women alluring. And now the more we sex you feel neglected. Our connections getting ruined. You would fight for my love while I chase bitches that don't love me. You even cook for me but she had a better look for me. You spend your racks up on me. Hit niggas with the ratchet for me just for us to be in matrimony. But friend zone with the brother who would love to serve you. Cause I never deserved you. So neither us is using virtue. Can't you see we in a circle? Each of us are cruel. For them I'm a fool. For me you a fool. Betty asking too.
I've always put my pride aside, I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise, simply play it cool. I'm foolish, yeah.
My troubled ass browsing subsidized housing. This bubbled ad lousing shit to leave your ag gouging. I'd rather be fad doused than hear these verbal roundhouses. Y'all raising your mouths loud. Can't you see your child's rousing? My look upon lounging. He should bestow my masculinity. Inept there slept and crept disaster enemies. Look at myself doubting all these passive tendencies. I had passive piety, but cash is deity. Niggas went from dope sack selling to cul-de-sac dwelling. I kept the 9 to 5, wept and wham, but why? My stomach large and my face hardened. Gone is my hopes. Spent 4 years on car notes, my wage garnished. I still keep feeling like I ain't shit. Even if I had a fucking facelift, it's self-hatred. To eat a 9mm told me to pill a hater. To kill the day to live like told me Philippator.
I've always put my pride aside. I've always told the truth. I'm stubborn, I don't compromise. Simply play it cool. 'Cause I'm foolish. I'm foolish.